Okay, it looks like everybody has joined. So my name is Noah. I'm one of the educators with Shortcut Software. And this Monday morning classroom session, we're going to be looking at a number of our online services. So this is super important if you're new to Shortcuts or you've been using Shortcuts for a while and you want to make sure your staff has the ability to do things like look at their appointments or even make appointments for themselves when they're working remotely. Or if you have a salon or a spa and you'd like to free up the front desk and perhaps have customers enter information in a client card or sign up for a form. So, how to actually set that up if you have a tablet and you'd like customers to use that to enter information. And of course, what exactly is the scorecard? How do you keep track of your business by looking at your monthly report? So, without further ado, let's get started. So this presentation, very similar to our other Monday morning classroom sessions, the presentation is about 30 minutes. We're going to allow a little bit of time so that we can take some questions at the end. As with other presentations, we are recording and we will be sending links to everybody that signed up. So if you're late in joining us or you missed a portion, we will send you a copy of this video. My microphone, of course, is on. Everybody else is on mute. Hopefully you can hear me. And if you can't, again, don't worry, we're going to send you a copy of this recording. So we'll take questions. On the right side of your screen, there should be a little window that allows you to type in a message on the chat or the questions portion. So if it's something pressing, you can go ahead and fill that out, and then I can check the question and or give you an answer. But of course, try to save any of the questions until the end. And of course, we are always available online. So if you have questions, most of you have our phone number, but you can also post questions on our social media pages. We do check it and we will get back to you. So, what is the focus of today's session? So, we're going to look at our online services, how to use Anywhere, our digital client forms, and the scorecard, how to set up Anywhere on your phone or tablet, making sure that your staff has security and permission, how to use the client information card, the CIC, is if you have, again, a salon or a spa, and perhaps you have a tablet or two, and you'd like customers to be able to fill in information or forms while they're in the chair. How does that work? And of course, tracking your business data using Scorecard. So the majority of what we're going to be looking at specifically today involves the Shortcuts online console. So not necessarily the point of sale system. Now, the online console does synchronize to your point of sale system. It does recognize employee schedules, employee appointments, business hours, details, things like that. But everything you're going to configure or look at today has to be done on the console. Now, if you haven't bookmarked it on your computer or on your home computer, the web address is console.shortcutssoftware.com. Again, it's console.shortcutssoftware.com. When you log in, you're going to log in with an email and a password. Hopefully, everybody knows what it is. If you're not sure, you can always contact the help desk and we'll be able to either reset your password or help you set up that original password. So, what is Anywhere? Anywhere is the ability to access your appointment book remotely. So, whether you're a salon owner or you're just an employee and you want to have that ability to look at your appointments for that day or that week, then you want to use Anywhere. And it's a web page. Again, accessible by going to the console. Now, what administrators see and what employees see are actually two different things. Just because you give an employee permission to access the console does not mean they have the ability to look at business information, change your online booking settings or company settings. By default, if somebody has employee access, the only thing they have access to is called Anywhere, and all it does is show them their appointments for that day or that week. So, how does Anywhere work? How do we set up Anywhere? So, if you're in the console, you're going to go to Site Settings. And once you're in Site Settings, you're going to select Manage Users. This is on the right column. Once you're on Manage Users, you're going to press Add a New User. Now, it's very important that the employees you want to give permission to access their schedules online are already in your Shortcuts point of sale system. So this is why it's important to make sure you have your staff entered in the point of sale, you have security turned on for them, you have a schedule entered for them, so that Shortcuts console can start to synchronize and pull that information. So again, for anywhere access, in the console, site settings, manage users, add a new user. Once you're on the user window, you're going to be presented with two options. So the first option is create an employee that is not a point of sale employee, or create someone that is a point of sale employee. Always choose the second option because we want the console to talk to your Shortcuts point of sale and look for the list of all the employees that you have. Whether they're a stylist, whether they're a receptionist, anybody that's in Shortcuts should be on the list. Once you find a particular employee, then you're going to choose their name, and on the following screen, Shortcuts is going to ask you for some information. Now, the minimum information you need is an employee's email, a first name, and a last name. The employee email will actually become their username so that they can log into the console. And when we're finished setting up their account, then they're going to get an email that says, this is your username, this is your password. And when they log in, they'll be able to look at their schedules remotely. So again, when you're adding staff, always choose the second radio button. Create a user that is a point of sale employee. Choose the salon from the pull-down list, choose the employee's name, and fill in their email. So once we add an employee's email, and we make sure they have a first name and a last name, at the very bottom of the screen, this is where you choose what level of permission they should have. So what exactly can they see when they access the console? Now, by default, at the very, very, very bottom, you're going to see something that says Site Manager, CIC Access Employee, Site Manager Restricted, Appointment Operator. For the majority of salons, for the majority of spas or even barbershops, if the only thing they should look at are their appointments for the day or the week, then the only checkbox you want to turn on is Employee. And that's it. When they go to the console, they will only be able to see their appointments. If you want to give them a little bit more permission, perhaps the ability to look at their appointments, but also make appointments for themselves or move appointments, then you also give them Appointment Operator access. So with those two, they can look at their appointments for the day and make new appointments or move appointments. For most salons, that's usually all the permission they want to give them. Now, if you have a receptionist, a front desk person, or you're in a spa situation, and you want to make sure that these employees can bring up the client information card on a tablet or on another computer so that they can have the customers fill in important forms, then you might want to consider giving them CIC access, Client Information Card access. So in addition to employee and appointment operator, they can then have the customer fill in a form if they're using a tablet. Now, the last two, Site Manager versus Site Manager Restricted. If you give somebody Site Manager permission, then they have the ability to look at anybody's appointments for the week, make appointments, move appointments. Not only that, they have the ability to add other staff members, change their permissions, and even look at customer surveys, respond to customers. So use that level of permission very sparingly. The one that's Site Manager Restricted prohibits the employees from changing site details, changing employee details, or responding to customer surveys, and instead limits them to just accessing the appointment book and making appointments on other employee schedules. Now, we do have a full detail on more permissions, how to add this, on our Learning Center page. But this is actually the level of permission that I would advise for anywhere. Employee and appointment operator are the ones that we've historically seen used the most for all salons, all spas, and all barbershops using shortcuts. Now, once you do that, when you press the save button, the staff member is going to get an email, and when they log into the console, they're only going to be able to see what you allow them to see. For the majority, the only button that works will be anywhere. Now, custom client information cards. If you're a spa and you have to have forms for customer needs to do a patch test or customer needs to fill out a form if you're doing tanning or some other chemical service, then you can actually create a form that your business can bring up on a tablet. The customer can sign off on it, and that information will synchronize to your Shortcuts point of sale. So even if it's something simple, like the customer wants to change their email or their phone number, they can do that in the online client information card. But for more advanced things, you want to go to the console, select the client information button, select the forms button, this is on the right side, and press create a form. So I will show you, or I will go through the steps, and then I will show you an actual form. So to build a custom form, you're going to give it a name. You're going to tell Shortcuts, is this an active form? Yes or no. There's a little checkbox. And you're going to be given a preview window on the left side of the screen. This is how your form is organized. And on the right side, you actually get to choose buttons that say, what information do you want on your form? Do you want the customer's first name and last name and phone number to appear on the form automatically? What information do you want the customer to agree to or to choose from? Is there a number question? So on a scale of 1, 2, 3, which do you prefer? And the customer then selects their answer. So you actually get to customize all of that. You get to order or change the order of the questions that you ask. And you even have the ability to create a sign-off sheet. Now I'm going to pause the presentation and actually show you what this looks like. So I'm connected to one of our customers' accounts and client information. So in the console, client information, on the right side, we have a forms button. So this particular spa actually has, or this is a salon, they have 4 different forms: a quote form, a waiver form, and a guest form. I'm going to edit the guest form. I'm not going to save any changes, so they don't have anything to worry about. So I gave the form a name, and then I chose, okay, does the customer have to fill one out each time they visit or just one time only? Or do they have to fill one out every year or every so many months? So on the left side, again, I said, this is a preview of how the form will be formatted on a tablet. It doesn't have to be an iPad. Any tablet that connects to the internet should be fine. And on the right side, what information do I want to auto-populate? So of course I want a field for first name, last name, cell phone number, email as well. And I can choose of any one of these rows, should first name, last name, and phone number be mandatory. So this way the customer can't save it or accidentally save it unless they fill out the information you absolutely need. And then what other information is optional? Birthday, birth month, birth year, any particular questions that you want to ask, you can use extra form fields. And again, they could just be a place for a customer to type in a message, a checklist that they have to choose from, a priority number that they have to set. And once your form is created, and yes, you actually have the ability to put a salon graphic at the top, something like the company logo, so that your form is particular just to you. So you can create as many forms as you want. And of course, each one can be formatted differently. and can have different questions and presentation. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. So hopefully, if you have a spa and if you used to have paper forms for the customers to fill out, you can start creating an electronic version, a client information card version, and just use a tablet to start storing that data. And again, all of this synchronizes with the Shortcuts point of sale. So if you want some forms to automatically put in the customer information, the forms are designed to do that. So when you're ready to use your form, if you have a tablet and your front desk or any of your employees are allowed to bring it up, they'll go to the console, go to the client information, and they'll enter their security PIN. So this is the employee security PIN, so that customers can't just start digging through your information. Only employees can bring up forms. You can search for an existing customer, or you can create a brand new customer and then choose which form the customer has to fill in. So the information form, a consultation form, whatever the case is. Now, once you select your form, the customer is going to fill in the details, and you can actually decide how are you going to verify that this form was completed correctly. You can actually have an option for a signature at the bottom of your form. So your customer can use their finger to sign off on the form, or have a checkbox to just agree to the terms and conditions if you prefer. Not only that, you can have the employee verify this information was entered correctly and completely by entering their security PIN. So customers don't just accidentally go through a form and try to save it without the staff having to sign off. So once the customer has filled in forms, how does the staff know? Has the customer filled out a certain form? Have they agreed to the terms and conditions? So the staff can go to the online client information button, search for a customer, and go to their history. So of course their history shows them previous visits, history notes, all of the important information that stylists need to get to, things like color formulas or preferred hairstyles. But they'll also see in the client history, form history. Has this customer completed the appropriate forms? So it's very important that if you used to use paper forms, you might want to start creating electronic versions so that you can ditch the paper forms, because of course that's not very secure. If somebody goes through your folders, your files, they can start pulling personal data, and of course we want to protect customer privacy. So if everything is stored, in this case online, only staff has permission to access certain information, and you can even limit the access that they have during normal business hours. So this way an employee doesn't try to use the online client information card from home or after hours. They can only access it during business hours. I hope that helps answer some questions. So then the last little bit, in the console, I'm going to get out of the slideshow again for a moment. So that's setting up forms, but on the main console, you've probably noticed that there's a button called Scorecard. And sometimes the picture changes here. So what exactly is the scorecard? Now, the particular salon I'm in, right now they've barely opened, like literally they've only been open for a little bit. So their information has not really synchronized completely. So how does this work? What do these buttons mean? Let's go back. So what the scorecard is designed to do is actually give you a monthly snapshot of how your business is trending. So the first thing you'll notice is the graphic that's on there. A cloudy sky, a sunny sky, or sometimes a sky with lightning bolts. That graphic actually changes from month to month depending on the trends. So if it's a bright sunny sky, that actually means the majority of your business details are trending up. They're growing from month to month. If it's a cloudy sky, that actually means neutral data. Your business is actually doing about the same relatively from month to month as it was previously. And if you ever log into the console and you see a dark sky with lightning bolts, then that means the majority of your categories are trending down. So you probably want to find out what's happening. When you go into the scorecard, Shortcuts gives you a breakdown on 5 important categories. How's your revenue trending, transactions, visits? So that's actually the time between visits, your clients, and your online bookings. So those 5 key performance indicators will give you a sense as to how your business did from month to month and even how you did from year to year against the industry averages. So how do you read those key performance indicators? Well, we try to make things easy. You get a thumbs up, a thumb sideways, or a thumbs down, depending on the growth over the month. So if you get a thumbs up, that actually means your key performance indicator, your business for that particular category, went up more than 5% in that particular field. If it was up to 5%, so 0 to 5% growth, then you're going to get the sideways thumb. So that just means neutral data. You stayed about the same month to month. And of course, if you performed less than you did the month prior, you're going to get a thumbs down in that particular category. Now, of course, there's always changes to the season, customers going back to school or customers going to work, or of course the holidays can affect business for better or worse. So don't be alarmed if you see the thumbs change from month to month, but at least you'll get a sense as to what are the particular categories you want to focus on. So the scorecard will not just help you track month to month, but you'll actually see a bar graph that shows how you did the year before. And above that bar graph, you're going to see a white line. And what the white line represents are industry averages for a business approximately your size and that does your level of business. So the majority of salons will actually tend to follow that same trend. If it's a really good economy, if the customers are spending, you're going to notice, okay, my business is growing along with the averages. But the scorecard does more than just give you a breakdown or the averages. It actually shows you how does your business seem to trend. Because just because a salon doesn't necessarily do as much business in terms of service dollars as the industry, you're going to notice there's a little bit of gap between that business and the industry average. However, where the salon or the spa really makes up their business is when it comes to retail sales. So then it may turn out that your business does exceptional retail. So you're way above your industry averages. So that's what these 2 bar charts at the bottom of the screen represent. On the left, this is the customers, and this is a hypothetical customer. So this is their, oh no, I believe this was an actual customer I took a screenshot of. So service-wise, they're a little bit under the industry averages. But when it comes to retail, that's the second column or the second bar graph on the right, they do exceptional when it comes to retail. So you'll get a sense as to how your business is really trending based on these different key performance indicators. So that's your scorecard. If you're not using your scorecard, or if your scorecard reports aren't generating, let the help desk know. Because if you're brand new to Shortcuts, these reports don't just generate in 1 month. Shortcuts actually needs to be running, has to have the online services running for a few months before some of these reports can be generated. So Shortcuts has to spot a trend. Your business has to be up and running for 3 to 4 months with Shortcuts before you get all of the categories to populate. So if you've only been using Shortcuts for a month or two, don't be alarmed if you don't see all of the categories. We're still looking for the trend. So that brings us to the end of today's session. So we looked at the Shortcuts online services, Anywhere, Digital Forms, and the Scorecard. We learned how to set up Anywhere for your staff, how to give them security. Everything that we set up in Anywhere through the console will actually apply to the cloud. So Shortcuts just debuted the cloud this year for our customers. And perhaps you want to give your staff a little bit more visibility to use the cloud, to have a tablet where the staff can bring up their appointments for the day. So if you give them Anywhere permission, that's also going to apply to the cloud. The employee will get an email, they'll get a username and password so they can access that. We learned how to set up client information cards, CICs, how to bring them up, how to search through the history, how to make sure customers are filling in that data. And of course, last but not least, how to track your business using the scorecard. So the scorecard is great just to see where you're really shining in the business world or where you need to improve. So be sure to check that. And I believe the report generates the second Monday of every month. So be sure to check it at least once a month to see how you're trending. So this brings us to the end of the presentation. Of course, we've recorded all of our new presentations, all of our new highlights when we have new features and shortcuts, and we make them available in our webinar library. So we do have an archive there if you want to just go through and see what else we've discussed. So at shortcuts.net/webinars. So now we're going to open up the floor. So if you have questions, on the right side of your screen, you should have a questions toolbar or even a chat toolbar. Go ahead and fill in your questions, and I'm going to open up the screen on my side so I can see it. And I'll pause for a moment because usually people want to get their keyboards or finish writing down their notes before they ask a question. And as I've said on previous presentations, if you go through this later today or if you review your notes later and you discover there that you did have a question or that you forgot to ask a question, you can always reach out to us on our Facebook page, give us a call, send us an email, and we will get back to you. So I'm going to make sure, see if anybody has a question. Well, I'm going to check the chat window. I don't think I have any questions this Monday, which just means everybody's ready for some coffee and donuts right now. Nope, it looks like I have no questions. Okay, if that's the case, or again, if you think of anything after the fact, after you watch this video, be sure to reach out to us. So you can always send us an email, education@shortcuts.net. Ask us questions on Facebook, on social media, we will get back to you, or just give us a call. So thank you all for attending. Next Monday, of course, we are going to have another classroom session, so I hope to see most of you back for that. If you're new to the classroom sessions, again, every Monday, we look at one particular portion of the Shortcuts program that's very important to know about. So if you have a new manager, a new receptionist, and you think that they can learn a lot about Shortcuts or they need to get caught up, or you've been using Shortcuts for a long time and you're not familiar with certain features, just be sure to tune in every Monday morning and we'll go through a particular section. All right. So we'll send everybody the link a little bit later today. Thank you for attending, and I hope to see you next week.